change from my computer to. And you know what? No, I could go through here actually. Just change the input.
Just one sec.
Check. Okay.
Straight this up the regular Zoom call then.
Well, thank you for getting up so early for this. I appreciate that.
Please.
Are you still up for the night before? Is that the?
Yeah, well, it's Friday morning. So there's this constant joke because our two other co-hosts are based in America. They're based in Tennessee, and there's this constant joke about how we're in the future. And we can tell you that the pandemic, unfortunately, is still a thing. It's still going. Yeah. But look, guys, again, I just wanted to say how stoked we are about the movie. I haven't got into the interview yet, but I was watching it and I was just blown away by just how well done it was. It was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sending it over. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for appreciating the movie and for appreciating the content. I know it's not like right down the strike zone of what you guys normally cover. So to cover something outside of that we take it as an honor for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's great.
Matt, are you all good?
I'm just.
We are. Yeah. So
Yes.
we are recording. Yep. All right. Awesome. No worries.
Mike's tested. Speakers. So let's do one more check. Flying back.
Check.
Check.
You can tell.
Sounds good to me. So
okay.
yeah.
All right. Awesome. No worries. All right. Let's get into this.
Am I sounding a lot better than I was a few minutes ago?
You sound good.
Great.
Yes.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Everyone sounds great. Okay. So essentially, we're already going to be in an episode when we throw to this interview. So we would have already introduced you guys. But congratulations on the film, guys. Raja Gosnell and oh my God, this is Alicia Joy LeBlanc. Okay, let me start that again.
Thank you.
It's early in the morning for us, folks. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
You know what? I thought
all kinds of ways.
I thought I was going to mess up Roger's name.
I know. You got Roger right.
Okay. Well, let me start this again. Congratulations on the film. I have Raja Gosnell and Alicia Joy LeBlanc. Thank you so much for joining us here at Midnight Double Feature. And of course, I'm here with my main man, Matthew. How you doing?
G'day. Great, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I'm stoked for this.
This is awesome.
This
is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Alicia and Raja. This is absolutely brilliant. Raja, you sent back the email, and I was ecstatic when I sent it to Matt. I was like, Matt, Raja responded, and we watched the movie, and it was absolutely brilliant. It was like some of my favorite movies, The Hateful Eight, The Thing. I love these movies that are shot in one single kind of like location, and it really relies on the strength of the actors and the strength of the script. And Alicia, you directed the play to this, right? So you directed
Yes.
Gun and a Motel Bible. This is Gun and a Hotel Bible for the 2018 Hollywood Fringe Festival. And we know sometimes it's difficult for a concept like that to jump mediums. So were you hesitant when it came time to adapt the play for the screen?
I was not hesitant at all. I loved the material so much, and I was really excited about the opportunity to let it reach a wider audience, because I felt like this was such an important subject matter. It is not the most inherently cinematic of the story actors in thing, but Raja was completely ready for that, and I think he added something so wonderful in the camera work and shifting point of view. You get a different experience of the story via the film than you do on the stage, and I love it.
That's awesome. Speaking of that, speaking of working with Raja, I just got to say, looking at like your IMDb, Raja, this might not be a film some would expect from you. Just going through some of the highlights we're going through from the Home Alone franchise to the Scooby-Doo franchise, the Smurfs, and then you got like others like Big Mama's House, Never Been Kissed. What made this film or this project what you wanted to work on? Because looking at the rest of your portfolio, it doesn't seem like your typical sort of wheelhouse.
Well, you don't see a direct line from Beverly Hills Chihuahua to what are you missing here?
I saw a Smurf in the corner, I'm pretty sure.
No, look, my entire career has been in the family comedy space. You know, a lot of CG, a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of talking critters. So, but I've always wanted to do drama, and to have something like this stripped down and this bare bones, and as Zob said, you know, it's just one room. It's about the writing, it's about the acting, and that's it. You know, it was a real gift to me, honestly, that Bradley and Daniel and Alicia allowed me to sort of be involved and help take this to the screen. So I basically had to throw out all of my tricks and just focus on telling the story. And in terms of cinematically approaching it, we basically recreated Alicia's set in my living room, and,
nice.
and the actors there. And then I had my little handy cam, and I was sort of walking around the existing staging that they already had, and just figuring out what the shots were. And to me, Alicia's staging is a lot like a prize fight in a way, where you have these two characters, opposing characters, like each in their corner, sort of sizing each other up, and they feel each other out a little bit, then they mix it up, and then they retreat to their corners, and that's sort of the rhythm of the piece. And I just wanted the visual storytelling to kind of echo that. So we tried to design sequences with as few cuts as possible, where you could just sort of sit there on two characters, and then, you know, once we start mixing up, the cutting pattern gets a little bit quicker. So it was just sort of a design like that. And honestly, it's some of the most fun I've ever had on a movie set.
That's incredible.
That's awesome. That opening shot is amazing with Bradley's kind of like monologue there. I mean, let's get to Bradley and Daniel. I mean, they're absolutely electric in the film, and you know, they're firing off this very like edge of your seat dialogue that they mostly wrote, from what I can glean. Alicia, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you might have also contributed to the writing as well, correct?
Yeah, very little. I was actually brought on board when Bradley and Daniel gave me the script for notes, and I just immediately fell in love with it and asked them, hey, would you be interested in having me direct? And they were. So a lot of what happened after that, we just did some sandpapering. We refined a few moments, and but yeah, it's all their work. It came from very long discussions between the two of them. It was once an exceptionally long email that they call the Frankenstein draft.
Wow.
I am glad I wasn't on board at that point. But no, they created something absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely. I mean, you can absolutely like feel the passion for the material that they wrote, just kind of like leaping off the screen. And for you guys as a team, how did you two collaborate in directing such an amazing duo and maintaining their chemistry and passion throughout the project? Like, you know, like that's something that I feel like oftentimes might get lost sometimes. Like, you know, someone might write a very good script, and then, you know, when it comes time to actually direct and put that script to film, eventually you just lose that. Sometimes you just lose that passion, and you guys just absolutely just knocked it out of the park. So how did you guys collaborate together to bring that to make that happen?
Well, honestly, it's sort of the easiest job I've ever had because it literally came to me fully formed. It was brilliantly written, it was brilliantly acted, it was brilliantly staged. And so like that's, you know, that's a lot of the director's job. And so from my standpoint, I got to jump on it, like the fun part of like, oh, where do we put the camera? And how does that work? And so so I think the collaboration was about sort of, you know, using my sort of knowledge of the visual portion of it to just sort of work around and not break what Alicia had going. And so we sort of talk about the various shots, and she was also, you know, very in with Bradley and Daniel in terms of like keeping the performances consistent, and so I think that was kind of the main collaboration. Was just sort of in sort of, I guess, how could I add a camera to all of this and not sort of break what they had going?
I just want to ask, if we were to like turn back the clock a little bit, how does this start off? Did you approach, like, so they had a show already going, and then did you, Raja, approach them, or was this like how'd this come from stage to screen? Like what kicked that off? Were they looking to adapt it beforehand, or?
I don't believe so. No, we just got an email invite one day saying, "Hey, come see this show." That we had no idea that the guys were working on. Went to see it. Were sort of blown away by the material and the acting and Alicia's work. And then we saw another curious thing. We went on the sidewalk and people weren't like walking off discussing where they're going to get dinner or having a smoke. Like they're in these intense conversations, and people just, they leave this movie or this play and they just got to talk about it. Like when Pete said that, you know, I was thinking this, and what did you think when Gid said that? And no matter where you are on the spectrum, church, non-church, left the church, like sort of, or even in a place of really no spirituality at all, but you know, just seeing this character in a deep valley sort of confront the his belief system in such a way is just powerful. And in a sense, it gave people, it gives the audience license to ask those questions that may be taboo or may be awkward. You never walk up to someone at the you know, the water cooler and say, "Hey, what do you think about this verse of scripture?" You know, but people were having these conversations, and so like that's, I just think, as Alicia sort of broached in the beginning, that was what sort of the key was. Well, we got to get this to more people. How do we do that? And from a strictly production standpoint, 2 people in a room, 2 characters in a room, like you can't make a movie cheaper than that. So, or more efficiently than that. So, so yeah, we started putting a team together, and you know, my wife Celeste and I approached Alicia and approached the guys and said, "Hey, we want to do this. Are you in?" And they took about a half second, said yes, and then adapted the play to a screenplay format, and we were rolling. We were rolling like 5 weeks later, and shot it in 4 days with like 1 day of
Wow.
exterior, 5 altogether, and yeah, that's how it came about, because we saw how the effect that it had on the audience.
Wow. Well, that's the important thing, right? You mentioned something earlier. So I'm just jumping around my notes here, but something that stood to me was like, I just imagine if maybe other filmmakers who might have been presented this project might have been a little nervous or worried about taking on like some taboo topics, or even just sometimes you mention the word religion and people just get worried about offending people or whatever. But I think what you've done here is everybody involved has done a good job of sort of representing these arguments or these points, and I think fairly like demonstrating the viewpoints in both sides. Were you like this, like, I imagine this would have been a top that would have come up. And did you have any like rules or goals throughout the project to help you just deal with the subject matter throughout?
I'm going to throw that to Alicia. She was there on the ground floor.
Yeah, a lot of that was dealt with in the writing process, and the guys. I think I've said this many times. I don't think anyone could have written this besides these two young men because they've been friends for quite a long time. They've bonded over improv and theater. They love those things. They love their medium, they love their profession, they love their craft. But more than that, they love each other. They have such a strong trust and respect for each other. And that relationship allowed them to have a lot of difficult conversations and to investigate these topics. And they did. Um, at first draft didn't
Alicia,
have room in the story to discuss.
Alicia, you broke up a little bit there in the last part. Can you repeat that, please?
Sure, yeah. So these guys just had and have such high respect and love for each other that they were able to have these types of conversations, and they ended up cutting out quite a bit from that Frankenstein draft because they had to decide, okay, what belongs in the story and what doesn't. And some of those topics, I think they decided we'll save that for another play, which I really hope they'll let me direct. But yeah, I think that the guiding light, or the kind of the compass, when I came on, was I immediately said, this is Pete's story. He is the protagonist. And we had to be very honest about where he was emotionally, what he was dealing with. And then Gid's role was to react to it. He was the role of the antagonist in the story, and all of his tactics were to try and sway Pete, but that allowed for a lot of honesty on both sides, and you can have the freedom to say things bluntly that you wouldn't in everyday conversation.
I'll just jump on the second half of that. You asked, Matt, if there was guardrails. And I would say no, and we never saw this as a faith film per se. It actually honestly ticks none of the boxes of a traditional faith film. We saw it as a drama about faith, and the guys set out to write it to be so even-handed, and so like there's no straw man in this, and we're not talking about religion as a whole or the church, the state of the church. We're talking about this person, Pete, who is in this dark place, who has this history, in his religion. It could be another character with their religion, but he's in this place with his past and his where he's at, and so as Alicia said, it comes from a place of honesty, and honestly, for every sort of attack that comes at Gid from Pete, Gid has a fantastic, wonderful scripturally based response. And so to tell the story without Pete saying that guardrail potential thing, Gid wouldn't have a chance to say his wonderful thing. And so it's meant to be as even-handed as possible. And by asking those hard questions, we also get to hear the wonderful scriptural answer. So I think that sort of encompasses the question of why we weren't afraid to go at it, because we have this character in the form of Gid playing the Bible there to answer for it, and they're never disrespectful to one another.
I'm so glad you said that, Roger, because my next question was, and this ties into my love of legal dramas like A Few Good Men and Trial of Chicago 7 just recently. Both of them are Aaron Sorkin scripts, and this feels like an Aaron Sorkin script. I'm a lawyer by trade, so I love a good debate. And I'm so glad you guys just touched on how important it was for you both to express a logical and rational argument for both characters to the audience. So you don't lean on, so you don't get one person's kind of like, I guess, point of view. And
Yeah.
you guys really, really kind of like knocked it out of the park in terms of how these two rationally, there are tempers because obviously these are characters going through different things, but how they rationally argue and how they rationally put forward their points of view. So, again, you've already pretty much answered this question, but how important was it for you guys to express logical and rational arguments, to kind of balance it rather?
I think that started with the writers. Honestly, that was important to them. That's why the piece works. I wish I could take credit for that, to be honest, but I really can't.
Well, they're not here, so feel free.
Yeah, exactly. I will take credit on their behalf. But yeah, no, that's exactly how the play was designed, and that's what they wanted to get across. They wanted to have a voice for everyone in that room. And everyone in the audience to have a voice in that conversation, and that's what they set out to do. And I'm really happy to hear that you feel like that was achieved.
Totally.
I would just piggyback off of that and say, when people left the theater, they, from different sides, people left feeling heard. And they also left feeling like, but you could have said this and you could have said this. There was always more that could have been said or done in that situation. And I always felt that way as the director. But the thing is, this is the story, and this is kind of everyone's story of you have this much time in your life to grapple with this, to grapple with these subjects and to grapple with these questions, and what do you do with the evidence that you're presented and the answers in your questions, and how do you resolve all that?
Absolutely.
Wow. I just want to ask now, like moving sort of a bit from, I guess, the content to the craft. So a big vibe I got from this film, it feels like you were intentionally trying to sort of replicate the feel of the play, like going from like the dimming of the lights, the long takes, the monologues, and addressing the audience. Like how important was that for you folks?
I guess I'll jump in. That was very important. We wanted to sort of keep the vibe of that. We wanted to sort of keep what worked. The long takes were part of the general design to play as much as we could without cutting, to just stand back and let the actors act, to be a fly on the wall in that room, to to honestly stay out of the way, kind of as the filmmakers, and let it play out. So yeah, the monologues were what they were. That's how they happened on stage. The character addressed the audience, and so it made perfect sense to for the characters in the movie to speak directly to the audience, to talk right down the barrel of the lens and say, this is my story, and this is where we're at. And so yeah, we weren't trying to hide the fact that it was based on a play. We were trying to sort of honor that and make it as I guess fluid as possible. But also you still, I think you mentioned in the beginning that you're sort of in this claustrophobic, Hateful Eight type of place where you're not getting out of there until there's a resolution. You know what I mean?
It feels like a pressure cooker.
It's like a bottle episode. Yeah,
that's part of the appeal. And I don't want to give the impression that these guys fight the whole time. They bond. I mean, they laugh over stuff. There's they really become friends in this hour together.
Were there major changes adapting the play, like other than the name, I suppose? Like, did you have to change anything because of the screen and the camera? anything major?
I think
Nothing
Alicia,
major.
yeah, nothing. Alicia and I worked on the blocking a little bit. There's a sequence where I think it's at the end of the first act. We call the acts every time the alarm clock goes off, but near the end of the first act where Gid is talking to Pete, and Pete's coming back and they're talking about context and the context of the Bible. And I sort of designed this this sort of 360 Steadicam. And so to do that, to make that work, we had to have Pete sort of stalking around Gid and, oh yeah, what about this? And what about that? And so I think that blocking didn't exist in the play, but, and there may be a few other circumstances like that. Alicia, you can remind me, but that was sort of in the service of trying to, how can I shoot 5 minutes with no cuts and have it, you know, sort of build the intensity of that prize fight that we were talking about. And so that necessitated a few changes, but honestly, aside from that, there may be a few word changes in the script. I think we took out a few F-bombs from the original Hollywood Fringe, but I don't think there were a lot of changes. Do you think, Alicia?
I think we did trim Gid's opening monologue a touch. He in the play he has the whole stage, whole wide open space, and I think we figured we could do it more efficiently in the film, just shortening that a skosh. But other than that, I don't think there were. Oh, and we also developed Pete's monologue about Cindy a little bit because we added some flashbacks that don't exist in the play.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the play, it's just those two guys. That's all you see the entire time. So in the film, you get to see a little bit of B-roll of Pete's life, which was fun to add.
Right.
It works so perfectly. It's fantastic.
Was there something specific that inspired the change from motel to hotel, I wonder? Or is it just to make it different for the sake of it?
Did you ever consider Airbnb?
Yeah. Gun on an Airbnb Bible doesn't have the same ring to it.
I think I insisted
story.
on that change. Go ahead, Rod.
Here's the real story. We got a great package deal at a little studio in Canoga Park, California. They had a set. It didn't look like a motel, it looked like a hotel.
Beautiful.
And then so we shot that set because it was affordable instead of building our own. Then we found a great location in downtown LA, which we dolled up a little bit to look like downtown Chicago. But it like matched that interior perfectly. So like, okay, it's a hotel.
That's awesome.
I love that so much. I think we're probably coming towards the close of this. I think we only got a few left. I've got a little silly question. It might be more better for Bradley and Daniel, but just as someone who loves his pop culture references when it comes to humor, I really got a couple chuckles out of a little Pokemon bit. Do either of you have a favorite Pokemon?
You know, I was I was probably in that Pokemon camp where in the camp of, oh no, Pokemon are dangerous. So
Wow.
I was so familiar with that whole argument. And so I got a fair chuckle out of that as well. But Pokemon, I know, was a huge part of their writing process and how they communicated. Yeah, and it was when you talk about guardrails, about what how you decide what goes in the story or not. They would talk about, oh, that's okay, we're in this Pokemon stadium and we need to be over here. And just they would use it as kind of code for how they needed to write or how they needed to change direction. It was great.
That's hilarious.
I wish I had an answer for you, Matthew, but I'm just the wrong generation for Pixar.
I had
I
a
could
feeling
make
that-
one up, but it would be dishonest, and I wouldn't want to.
well, thanks for your honesty. It just actually occurred to me as you're talking, Alicia, about when I was a kid and it was at the height, there were like these things about like I think the church said, or someone out there was saying it was satanic, and seeing that like snuck in there was just, it got a chuckle out of me.
It was perfect. It was
Yeah.
so well placed.
Yeah.
I've got another question. It's a little bit off topic, but this is just more dedicated to Raja. I feel like throughout your history of family comedy films, and it's such an incredible length of work. And I do want to say real quick that my girlfriend's favorite film of all time is Home Alone 3. Whenever she's down in the dumps, she watches that film. Since dating her, I've probably watched that movie 1 billion times. And yeah, so first of all, thank you for that. It means a lot to her. What do you think are the key things that people may miss to what makes a good like family film like that? What are the elements that you need? What are the ingredients we need that people might miss to making a good one?
You know, it changes. It changes over the years. So I think it's kind of a moving target. Back in the Home Alone days, that was one thing. Nowadays, Marvel movies are considered family movies, to be honest. A lot of people bring their kids to see Marvel. And so the goalpost continues to move. I will say from personal experience that there are things you can do in animation that you could never do in live action. For instance, Up, an old man and a Cub Scout float away on a house. The parents would probably say, no. In a live action movie, Inside Out, the 12-year-old heroine walks through the mean streets of the Bay Area to get on a bus. The parents in a live action movie would probably not have that. And when I say the parents, we have these test screenings where you have focus groups and where if you ever step over the line, basically you hear about it. So back to the question, like what does a great family movie need to have? It needs to have enough comfort food factor to it, enough familiarity in terms of like a relatable character that you're rooting for, who has a pretty simple quest. It could turn into a very complicated journey, but generally the heart of their quest is simple, and then fun side characters, and hopefully an uplifting message at the end. And it's a pretty small and pretty simple list. And as I said, it's becoming harder to have like what we consider old school family films outside of the animation world. They're a little bit of a dying species, at least in terms of the big theater space, but they're out there, and they live on. The Home Alones and Mrs. Doubtfires of the world, live on on TV and on streaming. And so yeah, it's not a very succinct answer because I don't really know what the right answer is at all times. So it's a moving target.
Mrs.
Well, if you-
Doubtfire is such a well-edited movie. I wonder who the editor was on that.
Oh, well, someone,
I was gonna say if you don't know the answer to that question, then I don't know who would. So I guess that what you're saying about a simple but good story and fun side characters is enough.
and a nice message at the end.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
I'm glad your girlfriend likes Home Alone 3. That's like the forgotten, the little stepchild Home Alone. So that's amazing that she's so into it. That's great.
I can definitely see how underrated that film is. Like when I first heard that, I'm like, really, the third one? Like who says the third's their favorite? And now I think I might be coming around to that too, because it's got some really great moments, and that kid is so adorable.
Oh, that's great.
If we're going to fanboy very briefly, for me, it was Scooby-Doo coming up when I was growing up. I mean, that was shot on the Gold Coast. So thank you for contributing to our economy. But also Rowan
Australian government
Atkinson.
thanks you.
Rowan Atkinson as well. I mean, that movie's got a very special place in my heart. So and the sequel as well. Seth Green, I love those two films. They're absolutely brilliant.
Thank you for contributing to our economy.
That was totally offhand. That was not scripted at all.
You know the urban legend of the R-rated Scooby, right?
Okay, you got to tell us now. You got to tell us now.
I don't think I know that one, but I imagine since James.
So there's this urban legend that the original Scooby-Doo was R-rated, and which is in fact happened. There was we sent to the ratings board, and they misunderstood a word that the little voodoo character said. He said Arnuki Beast, and they heard something very different. So they said, no, it's an R movie. We said, no, it's not. But the movie that everyone knows is very different than the movie that the studio greenlit. James Gunn, who you all know is brilliant, wrote a very sort of subversive, kind of like, I guess if what Austin Powers is to James Bond, this script was to the Scooby-Doo cartoons. And the studio got nervous that we might be that the main target audience for the brand of Scooby-Doo was parents and their young children. And that's not who we made the movie for. We made it for people who grew up watching it, and now we're looking back going, yeah, I think Shaggy was probably high. Maybe Vilma was gay. I don't know. So that's kind of who we made the movie for. So there was after a couple screenings with parents and their young kids in very conservative parts of town, we got a couple not less than desirable scores, and so it's like, okay, if that's who you're gonna make us play the movie to, then we cut it. So a lot of stuff got cut out. So that's sort of the long story around the.
That's awesome.
Around the R-rated Scooby-Doo.
I'm
glad you enjoyed the final. There's the bits of it. You see little hints of what it was, but I'm glad you're a fan of the originals and the sequel, and thank you.
I'm anxiously awaiting the 25-year anniversary R-rated cut. So let's get it going.
I have pitched it a few times, but I think the brand is still too important. The IP is too important.
Of course.
I don't think they're going to go there.
Since it came up, can I just quickly ask you, have you seen the Shaggy memes people have made based on that movie over the last few years that have gone around?
No, I don't.
There's like some shots from like behind the scenes, and people talk about how Shaggy had like unlimited power, and I don't know what it's almost like he's some sort of superhero behind the scenes and they had to turn it down or something.
I'm sure Matthew Lillard was the superhero behind the scenes. I love Matthew Lillard.
Yeah. I have not seen those memes, but if Matthew's in them, I will look them up, and I'm sure he'd love to come on and tell you guys all about it. Because he is a superhero. Matt's great. I love him.
Totally. I've got a couple of very quick fire closing questions. Raja, you must be incredibly, especially proud of Bradley. Just watching him cameo in your past films like Scooby-Doo and the Smurfs, and then like showcasing his talents on this film. I actually began to question what I was doing in life when I saw that he's the same age as me. I was like, whoa, hold on. 1993? Are you kidding me? And we actually recently had the opportunity to talk to the Nelms brothers, who directed Mel Gibson in the movie Fat Man.
I heard that interview. Those guys are so entertaining. I thought so much.
Thank you. That was awesome. We had a great time. And I'm always interested in like familial kind of like professional partnerships. And do you and Bradley have the same relationship on set as you do like when you're just hanging out?
No. I mean, first of all, like it was a complete honor that these guys let me sort of in on their project and let me make a movie that like no one else would. Like there's no Aaron Sorkin, scripts in my email box. You know what I'm saying? I don't get sent that kind of material. So to have an opportunity to do that was fantastic. So I really was appreciative that they trusted me for that. And in terms of working together, no, it's completely professional, man. The clock's ticking, the people running around, adjusting lights, doing their thing. You guys are up. Let's go. So it felt like working with just any other professional actor, and he and Daniel were just amazingly professional. And I'd never had this experience where you can say to your actors, okay, we're going to pick up on this line, go, and then they give you 7 minutes of like perfect acting and perfect, because they've done the play so many times, they had such a rhythm, and it was such a joy as a director to be able to, like, I don't have to cut around this, and I don't have to do that, I don't have to teach everyone the blocking, and I don't have to It's like they could just like, okay, and then just go, and it's like, how do you do that? So I was blown away by the talent of all of them, and I'm proud of Alicia and Daniel and Bradley's, all the same.
You should be. It's a wonderful achievement. It's absolutely brilliant. And look, here's my final question, and this is kind of, one of those generic closing questions, but I am actually genuinely curious to know what's next for you guys. I mean, like, Alicia, where do you go from here? I mean, are you going to adapt more plays for the screen? Like, are you going to do something original? What's next for you?
Well, currently I'm working on an original. It's in development. I've written a original script, just exploring concepts of fatherhood.
Nice.
It's another small cast piece, but yeah, it's in development right now, and yeah, hoping to film it in 2022. We'll see. Oh, I think I froze. Well, if you can still hear me. Virus cooperates.
No, that's okay. You froze for a little bit. We can definitely hear you.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I'm excited to see it. I'm always down for original content. That's awesome.
I've read it. It's really quite good.
That's awesome. And Raja, yourself, what do you have on next? I mean, look, in the age of the internet, I can just look up IMDb, but I mean, why do that when I have you right here?
Honestly, if I spent the rest of my career making little two characters in a room movies, I'd be really happy. I actually pitched a Best of Fringe like series around town a little bit, and it didn't quite get any traction, but I would love to do that. I have a couple things in development, the kind of things you'd envision. IP meets animated character meets real world scenario. So the sort of things that you think of as the movies I've done, I have a few of those percolating, and yeah, just staying healthy and living life.
That's awesome. That sounds awesome. We can't wait to see what you guys have coming up, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here in Midnight Double Feature, and congratulations again on Gun in a Hotel Bible. It was absolutely brilliant from start to finish. It was a pressure cooker of a film. It was incredibly deep and thoughtful, and I was just totally blown away by the ideas and concepts that were brought up and how logically everything was explained. You guys have just done a wonderful job and absolutely knocked it out of the park. So thank you so much, and congratulations again.
Thank you so much. Available in Australia on iTunes January 5th.
Awesome. No, right. That sounds awesome. And what about the US? Because we have the US, like, I mean, our contingent is the US.
Oh, yes. Basically everywhere, iTunes, Amazon, Hulu. Like, I should have the list in front of me if I was good.
Yeah.
I was trying to bring it up as we're doing closing thoughts. Direct TV. It's basically everywhere. Everywhere you get your material, it's there. VOD. That's awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much. You guys are great. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
It's been a delight.
See you guys.
I'm just going to grab